I have a model that I teach in my workshops in the parent coaching groups that I called SHRED. And SHRED stands for sleep, habits, relationships, exercise, diet. It sounds like bare bones stuff, but that's lifestyle self-care. That's what that is. If you're getting enough sleep, you are practicing self-care. If you have good, effective, ADHD-friendly habits, that's self-care. If you're fostering relationships that serve you well and are not toxic and are not damaging, that's self-care. If you're exercising for 20 to 30 minutes a day, cardio is king, as Alan Brown would say, that's self-care. And if you're practicing a good, healthy diet, right? Shop the supermarket perimeter. That's the way you want to think of it, right? Go into the produce section, go up back, skip the bakery section, but hit the meat and dairy.
ADHD Rewired, episode 325. This is the podcast for those of us with really good intentions and a slightly wandering attention. I'm Eric Tivers. I'm a licensed clinical social worker by training and a coach by design. I'm your host and I have ADHD. ADHD Rewired is more than just a podcast. We are a community. We are wired for connection and you are not alone. Go to ADHDrewired.com to learn how you can join us in our free secret Facebook group. Get additional resources for every episode, including links to any resources we mention on today's show. You can support us on Patreon, sign up for our email newsletter. You can request podcast postcards to distribute to your clients and support groups. And you can learn all about our intensive online video-based coaching and accountability groups. You can do all of this at our website, ADHDrewired.com. We know that starting is the hardest part, so let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD Rewired. We are here for our live Q&A, and we are going to kick it off right away with a question from Erica. But before we do, let's say hello to everyone we have here. We have first Will Kerb from Hacking Your ADHD. Hello, Will.
Good morning to everybody, but it's not morning for everybody, nor will it be when they listen to this. So good day.
Good day. Good day. And we have Brendan Mahan from ADHD Essentials.
Hi. How's it going?
It is going. And today we have MJ, who is a special, she's like the MC. She's kind of like doing the questions and helping us out. So MJ, hello.
Hello, everybody. Happy day.
Happy day.
Hopefully it is happy for everybody.
And we have Erica, who is going to ask the first question on this here Q&A. Hey, Erica.
Hi, everybody. Great job, MJ. So thanks. You know, there's a lot of talk, and this is for myself, about self-care. I do it too. Self-care. It's actually getting a little bit watered down in some ways. And I wanted to know, Eric, if there was kind of a clinical perspective that you have on this or that we need to have around this. You know, I just don't want something that could be important for all of us, for people with ADHD, maybe in particular, I don't know, for it to kind of get lost as we use that term. Does that make sense?
Can you give me some background of kind of where the question's coming from?
Well, I guess, you know, it's just sort of this label, like getting a cup of coffee is self-care. You know, what does it mean really? You know, and I mean, I have my idea of it in a way, but like I said, is there sort of a greater perspective on it that we should be holding, or that I should be holding a little bit more clearly or more importantly, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, I what I'm hearing is like, where's the difference between just sort of a self-indulgence, like in a treat, versus actually something that's like self-care that actually is recharging, in some ways to our system. And I think that's kind of it. Like, is this the $5 cup of coffee treat? Like, is that really like, are we calling that self-care? Cause that's the in thing to be doing. You know, so I think things that we know are restorative to health and well-being, I think are self-care. I think and we've talked about this in our coaching groups, like the attempts to sort of re-energize, but don't make you feel any better afterward, or typically things around numbing, versus self-care, right? So maybe the treat is a form of numbing dressed up as like, we're going to call it self-care. Like, I'm going to go get a cupcake because self-care. No, that's just like a bunch of sugar and but not good for you. Like, is it a treat? Fine.
Right.
Like, it makes you feel good for 10 minutes and then it makes you feel crappy afterwards. So I wouldn't call that self-care. So yeah, I think it's really looking at, like, with anything that we're doing, like, all right, is it giving us a positive sort of net at the end of what we're doing? Then I think that's self-care.
Right.
What do the rest of you think?
I devote a whole week of the parent coaching group to self-care. But it's later, usually like week 7. And I have a model that I teach in my workshops in the parent coaching groups that I called SHRED. And SHRED stands for sleep, habits, relationships, exercise, diet. It sounds like bare bones stuff, but that's lifestyle self-care. That's what that is. If you're getting enough sleep, you are practicing self-care. If you have good, effective, ADHD friendly habits, that's self-care. If you're fostering relationships that serve you well and are not toxic and are not damaging, that's self-care. If you're exercising for 20 to 30 minutes a day, cardio is king, as Alan Brown would say, that's self-care. And if you're practicing a good, healthy diet, right? Shop the supermarket perimeter. That's the way you want to think of it, right? Go into the produce section, go up back, skip the bakery section, but hit the like meat and dairy.
Or just tap on the produce section on Instacart if you haven't been inside a grocery store for a couple months.
That's that too. That's an option. I'm still going there.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
Wow, you're brave.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than that, but yeah. It's a philosophical thing. But yeah, that supermarket perimeter, the stuff I don't mean Whole Foods like the store. I mean Whole Foods like an Apple as opposed to Apple Jacks, right? That
I freaking loved Apple Jacks when I was a kid. It was so good. Like the milk was amazing afterwards.
But that's the way you want to do it. That SHRED model, it covers a lot of it because, like, I guess a massage is self-care, but that's more like a treat yourself than
I would argue
self-care.
that. I would argue that. So for the longest time, would I love massages, but I would always be like, yeah, it's such a luxury, and then I sort of allowed myself for about 2 or 3 months. I was doing a massage every other week, and I realized how helpful it was. And so, yes, being able to get a massage every other week, I am acknowledging my sort of privilege in that. But I'm rolling the dice on those Groupon massages, because sometimes you can get like a 90-minute massage for like $50, and like that's, and it's, hit or miss whether or not it's a good massage. But I have found for me that to be very helpful. So I think it's also like how impactful is it for you?
And I agree with that. I try to keep as much as I can the self-care stuff to things that are easily affordable by everybody. Because self-care often comes across like a privileged thing. Like if you don't have the financial means to do it, you can't do it. And that just doesn't have to be the case.
Right.
I have an idea, Brendan, for your SHRED acronym. SHRED'em, just M for either meds or meditation.
Those are habits.
Well, screw the idea then.
So it's really around sort of your physical self too, like your physical and your brain, as opposed to, because an active self-care could be like, I'm going to follow my schedule. I'm going to find a time block.
Jump on that, because you had an episode not long ago where you talked about this fascinating concept that our brain is part of our body.
Yeah. Well, because it's like we go like, like the mind brain connect, but it's all one. If you eat crappy food, then you feel crappy mentally. Like that's where the brain fog comes from, is because you're fueling it with crap. And so all that self-care stuff, like it's going to help you think better too, because you're going to feel better.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to add too on the difference between like numbing and self-care, I also found is also if you're doing avoidant activity, you can be doing healthy things. I could be like, I'm having trouble with my family. I'm going to go on a run for like 3 hours to be out of the house. And that's numbing too. Whereas I could also be like, hey, I'm going to sit down and like watch some TV with friends. That's self-care, because we need to have those active relationships. And especially like now being like, oh, hey, I can like load up this like Netflix with friend or Netflix party, whatever, and like watch something with people from a distance. That's a great way. Or like played this like Jackbox games thing with friends. And that's like, I'm playing games, but that's self-care because I'm improving my relationship with people.
Was it Drawful? Did you play Drawful?
There was an element of that.
That game is awesome.
Yeah.
Brendan, I was thinking about you this week. So I've been trying to learn with my son the Pokemon game. Mm-hmm. There are so many rules in this game, and I'm like, I keep telling myself I can do it. So I sit down. I'm like, all right, I'm getting this. And then it just keeps on going. And I'm like, oh my, I need to take a class on how to it's just like the ADHD gods are like just laughing at me and they're like, good luck.
Yeah. And every card has its own rule on top of all the other rules. Yeah. I played Magic the Gathering for like a minute and a half, and Pokemon's basically the same kind of concept.
I even watched some videos on it, and I was like it's too much, too many rules.
Maybe you can get a 12-year-old to tutor you virtually.
Okay. So Eric, I hope that it's so funny when we start with a question on self-care and we go down to Magic the Gathering and Pokemon.
That was really helpful.
Yeah, I'm playing D&D on Sunday. That's self-care for me.
That's awesome. Are you playing ADHD and
ADHD and D?
Yeah.
No. That's the workshop I pitched for Chad this year.
All right, MJ, who do we have next?
I am interested in Trang's question. So if Trang is able to go live, we can do that, or we can answer the stuff here.
All right. What was Trang's question? We'll wait for.
Trang's question was, when something takes us off track, what mental strategies can we use to disengage and resume the not so fun tasks? And I feel like that's a really important something that we all need to cope with, especially being at home. We don't have those typical transition cues from, say, leaving the house to go to work and then coming home, or, just regular things like that, because we're just in the same space typically every day now.
I think that Will or Brendan, one of you mentioned Alan Brown, and it made me think of one of the things that he has talked about, where he goes, that's BS, and I'm not doing that right now. So it's like anything that's not the thing that your intention was, it just calls it, that's BS. Like, that's BS, I'm not doing that right now. So I think the first thing is just having an awareness of you're off track. And then, I don't know, pausing. I think it's important to like any transition, whether it's an intentional one that you need to do or one that you're like, I'm down a rabbit hole. It's been an hour. Okay. So like pause, like you can't shift gears before you pause, right? It's like, imagine driving 50 miles per hour and then hitting reverse. Like, do that without stopping the car first, change directions. You will blow up your engine, right? I think that's what I meant to imagine what would happen.
I've done that. I for real threw my car into reverse on the highway when I was in high school just to see what would happen. You know what happened? My car went, and I panicked and I put it back in drive and kept going.
And which is a separate scenario from when your car actually blew up on the highway.
That's totally different. That happened when I was in my 30s.
Are there any other highway fiascos that you care to share?
I'm sure there are. Just give me a minute.
While you're doing that, Will, what about you? When you're off track, what do you do?
One helpful thing is to to acknowledge it, and actually like acknowledge it out loud, being like, hey, I'm doing the wrong thing. When you say stuff out loud, it really affects on how your brain can do it, because you're like, your brain goes, okay, this is not just a thought. This is a real thing that we have to deal with now. And it makes it a lot easier to set your intentions. And then also just being like, figuring out why you don't want to do the unfun task. And if there's like, I mean, if you have to do it for a reason, being like, figure out what that reason is, like acknowledge what the reason is and be okay. I have to do this by this time. How am I going to get back to doing that?
So I also think too that having, knowing the scenarios and situations that may result in you going off track. One strategy that I like to do is I will have I'll put a sticky note like on the corner of my computer screen that tells me what I'm actually doing right now. So, and I will often actually put it slightly obtrusive on my screen. So it's like sort of annoying. So I don't just like tune it out, right? Because it's amazing when I do that. And then I'm like, I wonder about this thing, which is like tangentially related to the thing I'm working on, right? And then now I'm Googling and I'm like, oh, now that's interesting. I'm like, that is not what I am working on right now.
I also just write stuff down, right? Like a lot of the time, the stuff that pulls me off track is something else that is also important. It's just not important in that moment. And my brain is like, you're going to forget to do that thing. So now I'm trying to like check my email, which is so awful for me. And I don't even have time to do it right now, but well, let's pretend. I'm trying to check my email or reply to email. That's a really hard thing for me to do in the normal world when it's not COVID-19. But then like in the course of doing that, I don't know, let's say like something shifts in the sink and there's like a dink noise. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I need to do the dishes. And now all of a sudden I'm feeling the pull of the dishes that I also don't really want to do, but I'd rather do that than check email and reply to email, right? So I'll write down, do the dishes on a sticky note or a piece of paper or something, and then shift back to the email that I'm doing.
I like the idea of having a parking lot. So when those ideas kind of come up when you're working on something and that thing that comes up for you is not the thing you're working on, like don't lose the idea, but don't engage in it. So just put it in a parking lot by, because sometimes we'll finish the task we're working on, then we'll look at that task and we're like, why would I want to do that? Like, come on, brain, that was silly.
And another thing that's been helpful for me is because one of the things that takes me off track or used to until I started using this communication tool was my wife, and not in a bad way, just she has different priorities than I have and doesn't know what all the background stuff is that I'm working on, especially if it's for the business. So she would come up to me and be like, something as important as, can you get the taxes done? Like, we need to do taxes. Can you go over the taxes? And I would be like, yes, but taxes aren't due until now, like July 15th. And I have to do X, Y, and Z all due by Wednesday. So it's that thing that is due later is just going to have to wait. And I understand that it's really important for you and that's critical in your head. It's critical in my head too. There's just other things that are critical and have a due date that is sooner than July 15th.
All right. And the one other thing too is, in our coaching groups and our alumni community, we have our adult study hall and our, and sort of different things that are similar to that. It is amazing the power of being on camera with other people who are just all doing our own thing to keep your derriere in the chair, right? It's like, it's a really powerful thing. So if it's at the end of the day or end of the week and I have this thing that I have to do, like if I want to stay focused on that thing, I hop on Zoom, get into a study hall, and I will work on that thing until it's done. It's funny because I'll catch myself wanting to rabbit hole and then it's like, oh, can't do that. There's people there. And it's fantastic. So I hope that was helpful. All right, MJ, let's go to our next question.
Well, I'm interested in Susan's question, which was, I'm curious to know the story behind it, is how do you quell the agitation of waiting?
That's what thumbs were for. You twiddle them.
Or
the world's first fidget.
Bring a book.
Sorry.
Yeah, I bring a book. Like that's assuming I'm going somewhere and that's where I have to wait. Just to have something to distract me with myself with. And I don't love the phone as a tool for distracting myself because it can go in too many different directions. A book is only going to go in the one direction.
Like the band?
Especially if it's their biography, yeah.
Well, what do you do to help with waiting?
Well, I think really what's worse than the actual waiting is the anticipation that I'm going to be somewhere and I'm going to be bored. Like that's what like gives me more anxiety. It's like, oh, I'm going to be bored. And so some of it can be like, I am sitting there and bored and I'm not going to be able to do anything because I, won't have something with me to keep me entertained. And also kind of like, if you can like sit in that for a minute and be like, oh, hey, this isn't as bad as boredom isn't great, but I can sit here and be like, this is okay. I can breathe into this and be like, I'm okay. This isn't going to kill me.
Now, what about the agitation of like longer term waiting? Because I think we were just kind of describing the waiting in the moment, like we're waiting in line or waiting for something to happen. But what about the waiting for like COVID-19 epidemic to finally be over and for us to go back out and be able to be more than 6 feet from people in a place without like fearing death? That kind of waiting.
I try to learn as much as I can about it. I try to develop a plan based on what I'm able to learn. And then I accept my new reality as much as possible. And that's how I do it. Like I have a big picture perspective on COVID-19. I have a big picture perspective on my role in it and what my job is as a leader. And then I allow things to develop as they develop and do my best to not think about what it's going to be like later.
Yeah, and also identify, I think part of the agitation around waiting too, especially in the longer term stuff, is uncertainty. And so sort of identifying, all right, what is in our control? Because I think that we have this like weird relationship with uncertainty and control, right? Where it's like we spend so much time and energy trying to manage the uncertainty when if we just sort of let that be and accept that we don't have control over a lot of those things, but then also shift our attention to the things that we actually do have control over. Well, there are actually a lot of things we do have control over, right? So I think if we can focus our attention towards those things, I just think it's way more helpful. Like and I was just thinking that I think, was it 2 months ago when we had our Q&A? I don't think any of us thought that 2 months from then we would still be like in COVID-19 lockdown. Maybe Brendan did. So, I had gotten back into my workout routine, and a workout routine that's like painfully boring, but I do it with people on Zoom. Cause like I can control that. I can't control right now that I can't play my beloved pickleball. It hurts my heart, right? Like I'm sad about it, but I play pickleball with myself against the wall in a room where I work. And I've chipped the paint off the wall that,
Can I make one small tweak?
Yeah.
And it's totally a language tweak.
Mm-hmm.
Because I completely agree with you. Focus on the things you can control. The only tweak I want to make is focus on the things you can control and influence.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we can't control other people. We can only influence them. And if we're looking for things that we can control, we might try too hard to control other people and the people in our house or in our sphere of influence, instead of looking at that as something we can control, or rather, instead of looking at that as something we can influence. And also, influence allows some wiggle room in the grander scheme of things, right? I can't control what my state does or what the national government does, but I can influence it. I can put a little English on that spin and maybe have things go a little bit differently, even if it's not going to be exactly what I want. So it kind of reduces how much power we try to exert over those close to us, but increases our awareness of the power we have over things far away from us.
Love it. And I think too, thinking about waiting and just like boredom. And I just want to remind folks that boredom is the birthplace of creativity. So don't waste that. And Brendan has a podcast on it.
Nutrient-rich boredom.
All right. And now Jessica McCabe also had a episode and another one that I did with her that's going to be coming out soon. And if you're hearing this on the podcast, it might already be out. And we were talking about turning me into a sock puppet. I'm not sure if she went that route, though.
That would be the best. You would make a good sock puppet.
We had a pretty long conversation about it, and like she was gonna, for a moment, they were gonna go full on sock puppet for her whole channel, and then I think she was talked off, like talked convinced not to do that.
There totally needs to be like a pre-ADHD diagnosis Eric Tivers sock puppet that has dreadlocks, and a post-ADHD diagnosis sock puppet Eric Tivers.
Not a bad idea. I like it. Okay.
Demonstrate all kinds of stuff.
MJ, who do we have next? You have someone who wants to go live?
Well, I'm actually looking at Tyler's question. He says, I was curious about anyone else who came to the diagnosis late in life, like him, and how they use that revelation to pivot and move forward in their life, including figuring out what they want to do, as he has 10 things he wants to do.
All right. Check. We got you. All right. So Tyler, give us a little bit more information about your question.
So I figured this out about a month ago that I have ADHD, and it really made everything suddenly come together. So to not go into story mode, my question is, I really want to move forward with my life. I've already got a family. I've made a baby. I've had a career, but I've had this wanting of not really feeling like I was doing what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I've been kind of managing everything. It's been a giant learning curve and figuring out how to manage the ADHD now that I can identify it. But I've looked at all the different kinds of resources that say, people with ADHD are 300% more likely to start a business. Things like that. There's just a real whole urge to do something that's very much me and kind of take control of feeling out of control for the last 44 years, including, I guess, when I was a baby.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, if anybody else has gone through that kind of thing and what they did to kind of find focus and new goals.
Okay, so let's do this. I want to find out a little bit more about some of your current sort of pain points, but what I want to do is take a quick break, and when we come back from that break, let's dive into this. Okay. All right, so we will be right back. Living with ADHD can be hard. Coping with everything happening in the world right now can make managing ADHD even harder. When you join the ADHD reWired coaching community, you'll be joining a safe, supportive, growth-minded space where you belong and where you are not alone. Whether you are new to the podcast or you've been listening for a while, this Thursday is your last chance to join, to sign up for our summer coaching and accountability groups. Registration for our June 11th registration session is by invitation only. To get invited, go to coachingrewired.com and click the big blue button. Summer sessions are already 50% full. Could be more by the time this is actually released. And our registration event is filling up too. So don't wait. Go to coachingrewired.com and sign up to get invited to our final registration event for ADHD reWired's 21st season of coaching and accountability groups. Summer sessions begin July 10th. With ADHD reWired coaching, you have a unique opportunity to stay in our alumni community and continue to get support from people who understand you. You'll have access to webinars, meditation classes, adult study halls, and more. When you join our coaching groups, you'll get to be a part of that community. But it all starts with our intensive 3-day-a-week or 10-week online coaching and accountability groups.
A win, I think, would be learning the value of goal making, even at my age. And I am doing so many things every single day that I wanted to do and never got done.
Things that I've learned is scheduling, not over-scheduling, time management, and how to plan for the future.
And I've never before, and this is embarrassing, planned. I said the other day, I've always been the hamster on the wheel, just being battered through the cage and hanging on for dear life and going up and down. But now I feel like I'm outside the cage. I'm looking at it and I'm planning, at least 7 days at a time and starting to work on further and further than I've ever seen before. So I'm grateful for that.
I joined this group because I was exhausted trying to do everything myself. And I knew I needed community and a group to journey with in my struggles.
I joined this group because I needed a supportive environment and accountability to tackle my goals.
It's so nice to be part of a group of people who get it, who we don't have to apologize for our being. You guys get it. I joined the group because I started this year thinking if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. And I decided I didn't want what I always got. I wanted it to be different this year. I believe in accountability and I believe in the work that's done within groups because I've seen it work in my life in other areas before. I realized in this group that my husband and I of 30 years had not talked about our future or our plans, and we actually sat down and did that. That's a big deal for me. So that's why I joined, and not to mention the fact that I got so many pieces of wisdom listening to your podcast.
Well, I was hungry for new strategies and ways to manage the chaotic world of ADD with people who understood.
Join us. Go to coachingrewired.com so you can join us this Thursday, June 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Remember that registration is by invitation only. To get your invitation, go to coachingrewired.com and click on the big blue button. Space is limited for our registration event, so don't hesitate to sign up. That's coachingrewired.com. I forgot to mention last week that I did an episode with Jessica McCabe on how to ADHD about better ways to manage boredom by developing and creating a dopamine menu. It's like the combination of the words dopamine and menu. I think it makes sense. If you watch the video, it'll make a lot more sense. And a lot of people sharing with me their dopamine menus. So go check that out if you've missed that. That's How to ADHD on YouTube. Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that because I totally forgot to mention that last week. So enjoy. All right, we are back. All right, so Tyler, you were diagnosed about a month ago. You're doing overall pretty good. But there's still, as you kind of described, this sort of itch that's like that something could be better, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about some of the pain points and what does that itch almost feel like for you?
The itch right now is taking that feeling of lack of control, that all the things I've researched, the not good enough, all of that stuff. I'm kind of working over all that curve right now. I've basically been trying to figure out all the strategies around that. My wife has been very helpful with that. I guess that's the first pain point is just kind of hitting that hurdle, but I think those are the things I can do myself. Go ahead.
Who are your cheerleaders that let you know you're doing a good job of stuff?
Oh, my wife and my daughter and my family. I brought them into the fold a couple of weeks ago and was like, I have ADHD.
What was their response?
Yeah. Oh, well, my parents were fantastic. My parents were like, well, this explains a lot about your childhood and all these coping mechanisms and how even though you got good grades, you couldn't sit still for 20 minutes.
Okay.
My wife has been great. We were actually in a really rough spot over the last year. And once I found this article about ADHD and relationships, I went, holy crap, that's us. That's all the problems right there. So we really focused on externalizing the ADHD and it allowed some space for us to allow for the way my brain worked instead of my wife taking it personally. And I brought my daughter into the fold. She's 9 and she's like, Dad, I understand you can't hold still. Here's a thing. And she'll hand me something.
Oh my gosh. That actually reminds me of last weekend. I went for a walk with my son who's 8. And I don't know what was going on with me. Maybe I didn't sleep well the night before. We're having this really, like, we was one of these really just like connected conversations. We were on like this walk for about an hour, and there were at least like 3 times where he like interrupted me, and then he's like, "All right, so what were you saying, Dad?" And I was just like, I have no idea.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
And it happened like so many times in such a short period of time. Right there, he was like, "Why are you having such a hard time remembering what you were saying?" And I just had to, well, I have ADHD, and that's one of the ways that ADHD impacts me.
Yep. It's that very bare bones conversation with your kids that I think also helps you have it with adults.
Yeah, for sure. So what are the things that are sort of getting in your way right now that like you're trying to kind of get a handle on?
So honestly, I have an open book at this point because either for bad or for good, I quit my job right before the whole pandemic. So while I'm getting extra unemployment, I have plenty of free time, and I've been going through all my old tasks, things I wanted to get done. And I think honestly, for me, it's trying to find a meaningful focus of something that I would want to do, whether it's something I own myself or something I do externally at another company that really, for lack of a better word, kind of takes control of things.
In what way?
I mean, maybe this might be one of those situations where I'm answering my own question in our live podcast therapy session here.
And that's what good coaching is actually about.
But it's having some ownership, I think. It may be doing a small business thing with one of the many hobbies all my neighbors and relatives say I excel at, or something like that. And I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe that's my answer. It's just trying to figure out what meaningful activity I can keep busy with. I've honestly thought about doing something around cooking because I want to call the company Things I've Made, because I pivot constantly to learn new things. I don't know. I think I'm just looking for someone else to go, yeah, I've been there. This is how I kind of went about it. For me right now, I mean, this is the first live thing I've talked with anybody with ADHD other than the kid across the street who's 10.
Here's how I went about it. I made a Venn diagram that included things I was good at, things I enjoyed doing, things I could make money or get paid to do, and problems I could solve, which, if that makes sense, right?
Is it possible you did a video on this?
No.
Oh, it just sounds very familiar.
I've probably have talked about it on a million different places. And if you take that Venn diagram and then find the thing that is in the middle of all of those, or the couple of things or whatever, that's probably where you want to start.
And it was good at money,
enjoy doing. And I didn't actually put this in the Venn diagram, but it was in my head. So now I put it in the Venn diagram, which is a problem that I can solve. Right? Because that's really where the money part comes in.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to make the decisions based on that. And you have to lean towards the money usually, because that's how you need that rent. Yeah. So if it's something that you are good at and it will make you money, but you don't enjoy doing it, maybe you're going to do it anyway. Right? Or if it's something you enjoy doing and you can make money at it, but you're not good at it yet, you're going to work on getting better at it. So then you can make money at it, that kind of a thing. But that's the way that I kind of attacked it. And then the other element is right now with the sort of unemployment federal funding stuff that people are getting, you can build up a portfolio or a sample of your work or something like that right now, depending on what it is that you're doing, that you can then leverage later.
Makes sense. Was unless it's a too personal question, was your thing this ADHD Essentials?
Oh yeah, completely.
Okay,
that is a thing that happened.
Yeah, I've got all the links up that you guys sent out.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
And it sounds too like you're a pretty driven person. And so, I would encourage you to look into, to coaching. Cause, really ideally coaching is taking it from where you're doing all right, but you want to be doing better. right? Where therapy is where you're really on the struggle bus, and you're just trying to get to a place where you're all right. And with ADHD coaching, there's some gray area, and with that. But if you're looking for something to really drive you forward, I would definitely encourage you to check out our coaching groups. And
I got Brendan's up. He's pointing at himself.
If you want one-on-one stuff, I can do one-on-one stuff. If you want group stuff, go to Eric.
Yeah, I don't do the one-on-one anymore, but Mr. Mahan does.
Well, great. You guys sound like you're just in line with my wife, who said the same thing. They have ADHD coaches. Go for it.
All right. Who do we got next? Thanks, Tyler, so much for your questions. Thank you. By the way, I just want to know for everyone here in the Zoom webinar, how many of us were distracted by MJ's cat?
I noticed it. Does that count as distracted?
I mean, if it didn't derail you.
Didn't derail me.
I thought I pulled it back pretty well. I do have to say, if you all remember last month, the Q&A, I was on the struggle bus last month. Like, I don't think I could finish thoughts. I was just like, oh man, my ADHD was kicking my butt. And MJ, remember during your intensive 20-minute training on Zoom yesterday, I told you that, it was really important that I get a good night's sleep.
Did you?
Check that out. 100%.
Wow. Nice.
I so rarely get 100% that feels awesome.
I bet. Good for you. That's fantastic.
And I feel good today. It's amazing how that works. All right.
Eric, remind me to tell you that I've learned about a new, better sleep assessment tool.
Hey, Brendan.
Yeah.
You told me to remind you that you learned about it better. And I have a question. Brendan, What's the better sleep assessment tool?
It's a ring that I would have to look up to remember the name of it.
Will is apparently wearing the ring. I've seen that. How is it?
Super easy to use. It's really accurate as far as I can tell compared to other sleep trackers. And it needs to be charged once every 7 days.
Okay.
So it's, I can wear it as my wedding ring, so it doesn't. It's a little bit thicker than I'd normally wear, so I had to develop a callus for it. But
can you shower with it?
Yep, it even records your daily activities too, so that you can do it'll be it'll have things I'll wake up, look at the thing, and be you should lay off today because your peak heart rate wasn't with. Your not peak, but your dip in your heart rate didn't happen till later in the evening. So it has some really good analysis behind it.
Oh, how much that cost?
$250 or something. It was a bit pricey.
Okay.
And it did take 3 months after I ordered it to come in, which I was
weird.
I was I need to check on this.
Don't they send you a fit thing so you get the right? Okay.
You need to get it sized, and
so by the time you got it in the mail, you forgot that you'd ordered it.
I had put 3 reminders to check where it was, and then had not checked any of the times. So,
you want the name?
It's the Aura ring. It's OURA.
All right. Let's get them as a sponsor. I should try it out, and then I'll say, yes, get this ring. I'm using it. I like it.
I've used a number of sleep trackers, and it's been my favorite one so far because it is the one I notice the least.
And you can probably get away from your phone.
Yeah.
Which is something
that's the other. I don't keep my phone in my room anymore, so that's very helpful for.
Yeah, that would be good. All right, let's go to another question.
All right.
This episode not sponsored by the Aura.
Right. I should just send them a link to this part of the episode. Hey, want me to sample out your product? I'll talk about it.
Unintentional sponsor. So I'm looking at Cheryl's question. Alternative to taking medication. What other treatments are good for focus, attention, alertness, and more energy other than drinking coffee? What are your suggestions? I have only done yoga and coffee. Now I know that cardio is, everybody is a huge advocate of cardio for ADHD. Is there anything else that you do or any of you do that helps with a little bit more, bringing more attention or more focus other than exercise?
All right. And so Cheryl, my first, I guess, question when I hear a question like this is, why are you looking for alternatives? Is it a psychology sort of like the mindset of not wanting to be on medication, or is it actual a physiological reaction? Have you tried medications? Are you having a negative reaction? You know, I am less patient with the whole notion of I don't believe in medication. Like, I just think, I mean, not everyone agrees as strongly as I do, on this. People ask me if I'm pro meds. I am 110% pro trying medication, because it can be a life changer and honestly a life saver. Right. So I just wanted to put that out there. If you're looking for alternatives because you're afraid of the medication, please explore that, because I worked with countless people who were sort of in that boat and hit beyond rock bottom and said, fine, I'm going to try the medication. And they tried the medication, and how much they grieve over waiting so long. Like, why didn't I try this sooner? So if that's the case, please, I would really just encourage you to explore that. If it's because you tried medications and you can't take it, or there's some medical reasons that you are unable to take medication, then let's dive into that. So, approaching it from that perspective, cardiovascular exercise, I think, I know it is for me, and I know that there's a good amount of research that also supports this, is not just a good idea, but I would look at it as essential for ADHD management. About 2 months ago, I kind of slipped away from my exercise when COVID started, and I just, I was like, it profoundly impacted me. So I've gotten back on my exercise routine, and there's a really good book by John Rady called Spark. It is the neuroscience behind exercise. I would argue that if you read this book cover to cover, you will have a very clear why as to the importance of exercise. And like, even like little things like when you are exercising for a couple minutes during your cardio, go for the burn, because they talk about in this book that a sort of explosion of neurogenesis, of new neural connections, are created when you're pushing yourself, having the burn for just a couple minutes. It does something into the brain that it's like gold for our brain. So exercise, I think, is probably one of the top things that we can do. Obviously, sleep. And if you want to know one of the best things you can do to screw up your ADHD, listen to last month's Q&A. That was a good non-example of what happens when Eric is not sleeping well, and how does his brain work. It doesn't work very well, right? Drugs and alcohol, avoid that as much as possible. So as far as like energy drinks and coffee, like I'm no one's taking my morning cup of coffee away from me. I'll just say that. But we also know that it's actually the stimulant effect from coffee actually works on different neural pathways than ADHD meds do. So it's just different. Meditation, mindfulness, yoga, those are all helpful things.
Music. If you take Brendan's shred thing, all those self-care things, great for.
Yep. That's the whole shebang, right? Like that's all that stuff is critical. And when it comes to specific energy and focus and that kind of stuff, music is huge, right? Like I'm big into Brand New Funk by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince at the moment.
Nice.
That's the one that's getting me going. But music, especially music from when you were like in middle school, will get you rolling like nothing else.
I love that.
And video game music is also great because it doesn't have words to distract you, and it is designed to help with focus.
I never thought about that component of it. That's cool. Very cool. All right. So I hope that was helpful. And all right, let's go to another question. MJ, what do we got?
There's actually a question from Melissa at the beginning. It kind of ties in with a bit of what we were talking about. And she would like to go live.
Okay.
It says here, some advice on self-activating in the evenings versus lounging for 3 hours straight.
I know nothing about the 3-hour lounge of all the things you got to get done in the evening. So let's get Melissa here. All right. Hi, Melissa.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. All right. So self-activating in the evening. Tell me what you're trying to do in the evening.
Well, I pretty much just fall apart after like 6:30. I have dinner and then I sit in my chair and a dog jumps on me, and it doesn't matter what I want to get done at that point. It doesn't, up to and including at this point, I will just agree to listening when the alarm on my wrist goes off so I go brush my teeth in enough time to get to bed. I haven't gotten far enough to pull that off, much less being able to get actual things done.
Tell me about how you do during the day up to that point.
I am pretty good during the day most of the time. If I have my task list, I can get off track, but I'm mostly pretty good during the day. But after dinner, I cannot seem to reactivate unless something is due the next day, in which case I've got, the next 4 hours on focus.
Okay. Couple questions. Are you a go all day?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm go all the time.
Okay. So one thought is you might not have much left after dinner. And so you might be like, have these things that you're wanting to do with resources that are not available to you.
I have some understanding of that, but there's a lot of times where I'm sitting there and I want to do things and I just can't seem to get. But like I said, I can't even figure out how to get myself off the chair to get my teeth brushed in time at this point.
Have you tried an auto ejecting chair?
That sounds like a good plan.
Someone really actually does need to create that, because I think there's a market for it with the expandable spikes, so you don't hit snooze. I'm telling you, I know lots of people who would buy that. So one of the things to think about is having realistic expectations about what we get done in the evening. Right. I think, it's, if you keep trying the same thing over and over again and you're like, why can't I ever get these things done? Like I plan really well in the morning to do these things. It's because you're planning with your morning mind for things that are not your morning mind, right? Which just doesn't equate to the same stuff. Like if I clean my dishes from dinner, like I had a really productive evening, right? Like I don't plan on doing that much productive, like after work is done. We need to recharge. We are not we can't be in go mode all the time. So are there things that you need to do that you think might be, optimistic at best, maybe not realistic at worst?
I mean, right now, all I want to do is convince myself to get up, have a hot beverage, because I'd like to take magnesium before I go to bed, brush my teeth, and take some pills before we're like at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And we usually go to bed by 10 o'clock. And the alarm on my wrist goes off at 9 o'clock. And then I turn it off. And
you're ignoring that alarm.
Oh, yeah.
So what can you do before you sit down after you finish dinner to set up all those stuff to make it super easy for you to do those things? Like what can you prep?
I can put the magnesium in the cup. That's about it. That's about as far as I need to go. Usually I have leftover hot water sitting around. My toothbrush is downstairs. The pills are next to everything else.
Okay. So do you have one of those thermoses that can keep water super hot for hours?
51 ounces.
Awesome. So if you had all that prepped and you just had it next to you, right? Alarm goes off. You just open up the thermos and pour the cup.
Next to me, I have not yet tried. I have not moved those things to my chair.
Yes. Location is I can't tell you.
The kitchen's 50 feet away, but
okay.
That has been an issue in the past.
So I eat almost the same breakfast and lunch every day. Because I just pretty regular on what I eat. I know people are like, that sounds so boring. When you have IBS, if you figure out what works and doesn't give you stomach aches, you stick with it. So I have a Chobani yogurt every single day, except for when I have to get up to get a spoon. If I have to get up to get a spoon, there is a more than 50-50 chance that I am not going to get, it's literally 5 feet from my desk that I have to get up. But if I have to get up, I might not have that yogurt for the day. So knowing that I need to keep a small amount of spoons in my drawer so I can just open the drawer, I'm right there. right, is helpful for me. Brendan, I see that look. I see, you know,
your ADHD is so much worse than mine.
Do what works. You know, it's about activation. Like the gravitational pull from my derriere to this chair is like, it goes beyond the laws of normal physics. It just does.
It doesn't help me that I have small dogs who sit on my lap as well. So they're
train
shockingly difficult to remove.
Can you train them to get your tea?
Oh, I wish.
Can I, just as an alternative idea, I'm not criticizing Eric's at all because it's phenomenal. But do you have a coffee maker?
Yes. I don't use it because
timer.
No.
Oh, there goes that idea. I was going to say you could set your coffee maker to go off right after your alarm on your watch goes off, but don't put the pot under it. And then it's just going to flood your kitchen if you don't get up and go do something. And
ours doesn't even work that way.
Okay. Because that's a way to get up too, right? Is to like have something that's going to happen far away from you that you can't stop, including an alarm. And I have to go over and make it stop in order to have that horrible thing not happen. And that's a way to get up and get moving. But also I think there's something to the idea that you're allowed to just need to rest. You're allowed to be tired and be done, and that's okay. But you have to plan for it if that's the case. So if all you really need to do is take your medication and that's it, then just put that next to you wherever you're going to be and call it done.
How does that sound to you?
I think that would be a good starting point. If I could put some of those things next to me, I think also I would then, if I drank the thing, get up and brush my teeth, which is
and just
item I'm missing.
About...
Because I feel bad after that, because then it's in my mouth.
Why don't you just brush your teeth at a different time? All we have to do is brush our teeth at least once a day. No one said it had to be in the morning or at night.
I thought it was twice a day.
My dentist says once a day.
Really?
Yeah, according to my dentist. And so too does my kid's pediatric dentist.
So if you think about this, Brendan, your dentist has a vested interest in you not brushing your teeth as much.
I trust that he is ethical. I am ethical in what I do.
Because he makes more off of those dental cavities than he does off of regular teeth cleaning.
But I don't get any more cavities.
Well,
and
then...
the people who probably fostered the twice a day is toothbrush and toothpaste folks, like Alka-Seltzer did. Alka-Seltzer used to be, you put one Alka-Seltzer in the thing and it did the job, and then they had a commercial that went plop, plop, fizz, fizz, and their sales doubled. True story. But as like, there's nothing that says you can't brush your teeth at 5:30 after you're done with dinner or whatever, and then it's brushed, and who cares about it anymore, right?
So my brain just went, I wonder how many completely random like facts and tidbits have been shared on this podcast that had nothing to do with anything, but were just kind of interesting. That's what I just thought.
The rabbit holes, man.
Speaking of rabbit holes, let's go down one more by taking a quick break, and then we will come back and answer a couple more questions. So we will be right back. This week on Hacking Your ADHD, Will Curb is out with a new episode. Take a picture. It'll last longer. Go check out what this week's episode is all about. It's already on your podcast feed. They come out every Monday. Join Will as he explores ways that you can work with your ADHD brain to do more of the things that you want to do. Subscribe to these short, mindful ways to hack your ADHD. Go to hackingyyouradhd.com for show notes and to subscribe. And every Friday, check out ADHD Essentials with Brendan Mahan. At ADHD Essentials, they help families develop the skills and knowledge needed to better manage ADHD. Go to ADHDessentials.com to learn more. Both Hacking Your ADHD and ADHD Essentials are both part of the ADHD reWired podcast network, available to everyone, everywhere you consume podcasts. And if you are listening to this on the day it came out, which is Tuesday, June 9th, join me and the host of Hacking Your ADHD, Will Curb, and the host of ADHD Essentials, Brendan Mahan, for an hour of live Q&A. That's on June 9th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Go to ADHDrewired.com/events to register for this and upcoming live Q&As. Join us every second Tuesday of the month at 10:30 a.m. Pacific, 1:30 p.m. Eastern for an hour of live Q&A. Register for free at ADHDrewired.com/events. That's ADHDrewired.com/events. We hope to see you today. And if you missed it, we hope to see you in the future. That's ADHDrewired.com/events. We'll see you there. Support for this podcast is brought to you by our patrons over at ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. Did you know that if you become a patron at the $25 a month level, you get to join me and a small group of other patrons for an hour of coaching on Zoom? Consider giving at ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. I really appreciate everyone's support. It does do a lot to help me do the things that make this podcast possible. If you're able to support this podcast, I really do thank you, truly. And I also appreciate all the people who give $1, $3, $5. Everybody's support is appreciated. For those of you who are able to give at that $25 a month level and are joining our coaching calls, our next call is on Tuesday, June 23rd at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. We do it every fourth Tuesday of the month. Consider that $25 a month level or whatever you're able to give, because your support helps me do the things that help you. Go to ADHDrewired.com/Patreon. And thanks. All right, we are back. All right, we have a question from Steve, who Steve was on the podcast a couple of years ago, and makes some of the most dangerously delicious chocolate I've ever had.
Oh, thank you. We're still doing it.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm really glad to hear that. So tell us what your question is.
Well, my issue is we were just about to go into a major expansion where we put a building under contract, and I got partners together. And about 2 days after putting under contract, that's when this COVID thing happened. And then now it's that waiting to see when we can potentially work on the things that we are working on. Doing due diligence for the building, it's like, it's not that I'm impatient to begin with, but now it's hard to get a new routine without knowing when I'm actually going to be able to perform on the things that we have to do to start a new routine. So I just feel myself fatigued and tired all the time now, where I'm not sure what to work on. And then I start worrying about, are the partners going to be here at the end of all of this? So I think it's just constant overwhelm and not knowing exactly what to do or develop a structure of some sort.
How much of the is this stories you're telling yourself about the things you need to be doing? Because I'm hearing some of the concern is like that the partners may not be interested in working on this once kind of things move forward.
It's just a constant, regardless of what it is. I'm good at throwing me into a sea of chaos, and I kind of thrive. I like, just stopping, looking around and figuring out how to maneuver. Everything kind of slows down for me. It's that not being able to react because I don't know what it's going to look like. And right now the business is basically kind of slowed down to the point all of our distribution channels have been kind of shut off. There's a few that are about to open, but I don't want to go through another year like I've been doing. We need to grow. And it's still just me until we get these partners. So trying to manage, even doing the stimulus funding to try to go there and navigate through is just too much.
Have you been able to get that though, the stimulus funding?
I haven't gotten anything back yet. And I'm sole proprietor, so I haven't gotten it's been nothing.
Okay.
So far. And I'm still holding on.
But you have applied?
Yes.
Okay.
Finally.
And what follow-up can you do?
Well, there's not a lot I can do right now. I'm in Jersey, a hot spot, and there is no. You just get a busy signal. There's not a lot you can do. I've talked to some people I know in the small business administration, and they it's the same thing. They can't really do anything.
Maybe that's them telling you to improve.
that was another issue. We won't get into that one.
Well, I mean, first of all, that sucks. You're right. It's like you had this great sort of forward momentum going, and then COVID-19. Like, I think
it's not over. I mean, I'm sure that when it all ends, I'll be fine. It's getting to that point without falling into a depression, because I'm ready to go. I'm optimistic, but it's like I'm shackled.
So what is this holding up? Like, are you able to produce?
Not the way I need to. Basically what we are going to do is I'm in a part-time kitchen, and we put under contract a 4,000 square foot building to actually set up full-scale production with employee, the whole deal.
Wow. So
it's a big jump from me to, it's probably 6 employees starting.
Wow. First of all, congratulations. That's fantastic.
So I've got a list of places to sell it, but I've just been putting everyone on hold. Now it's like, okay, I'm ready to run, and I can't do it.
I mean, this all started from just an impulsive idea of wanting to learn how to make chocolate, right?
Yeah, walking the dogs that one day, yeah.
So that's really incredible. So congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
I mean, we're all in this together, kind of. So it's like, I'm wondering what you can, what kind of conversations can be had, and with whom, around, like, all right, like, here, obviously this wasn't a foreseeable thing. Here's where we were at. Like, how should we be moving forward? Like, should we pause on this until this is, we're moving forward?
Well, we really don't have a choice, because in order to buy the building to do the stuff we need, you've got to have contractors look at it, and you've got to get appraisals done, and everything's shut down here. And all the people involved, the seller, everything else, is on board to say, let's just, and I know that it'll happen, but it's just, how do I get through this next? It could be a month. It could be 2 months. It could be 3 weeks.
Okay, just one quick idea, and then I'm going to open it up to Brendan and Will. And the people that you're concerned about potentially, like, backing out, what if you just continue to occasionally send them really good chocolate?
Well, I do. I stay in contact. It's just a matter of, they're putting a lot of money into this, and everyone's financial picture is changing.
Yeah.
As this goes on. And I'm fairly certain if that didn't work out, I could find more investors, because I've had people that have approached me, but it's just, right now I'm just trying to keep my mental health together while we get through this.
Yeah.
I know that I've got enough of the planning done to where we can make it happen. But in the meantime, I find myself spiraling, and then that comes across, and my daughter is now, who was homeschooled, as you remember, is now in school, and now all of a sudden her social life's done. So she's depressed because of, now she wants that fix of social interaction. She's doing very well, by the way. So it's just, I don't know, just some kind of, I think what it is, lack of deadlines right now. I don't have there's nothing that has to get done.
Is it okay if I play?
Yeah.
Because I haven't said this yet today, and I say it every single time I do anything in the public eye around this stuff right now, because it's an important frame for us all to have, and it's one that we often lose sight of. So I want to share it. We are living through a global pandemic. This is a worldwide traumatic event. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be overwhelmed. If you are not, you're probably not admitting that you are tired and overwhelmed. We have had so many people come through this episode. I just don't know what to do. I want to do this, but I don't want to do that, but I can't seem to get off the couch because there's a dog in my lap. Like, half of that for all of us is trauma. It's not even ADHD. It's just the trauma of what's going on right now. And I would be willing to bet that a lot of the people who brought up these questions would not have brought up the same question 3 months ago, because they wouldn't have been in the situation.
No,
so
it wouldn't have been.
Yeah,
right.
I want to start
and you're
there.
right. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, because I do have a sense of shame that I'm not moving forward, and I don't know what to do. And
yeah,
I do find, and then when I do something like rebuild a BB gun because I don't know what else to do, so I take it apart and make it better, and I feel like, why do you waste your time on that?
Let me poke a little bit. Let me play a little bit. I wanted to start there because I want to give everybody listening that permission.
No, that's
you
great.
too, Stephen, but everyone in general.
Yeah.
You make chocolate, and that's a thing that brings people comfort. And I literally posted on Saturday, because it was a day late, an episode on post-traumatic growth where I interviewed one of the people who coined the term. And one of the things we talked about, it came up a couple of times in the show, was the importance of doing for others and serving others. So that is a thing that you are in a position to do, right? Because you can put together, and it doesn't even have to be for free necessarily, but you can put together, I don't know, and maybe you are already doing this, but gift boxes for first responders or for teachers or for whoever that can be distributed out to these people who are doing sort of the frontline and back end work of COVID-19 in order to support them. And it can be something that you do out of the goodness of your heart. It can be something that, like, you throw your link in the chat right here, and a whole bunch of people from ADHD Rewired and ADHD Essentials go and order a bunch of chocolate, and some percentage of that money makes you send it out. I don't know.
I'd recommend the dark chocolate with the sea salt.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And if you don't put the link in the chat, then I'm not going to be able to order from you, and that would be disappointing. So make sure you do that. But there's ways for you to take the business that you already have and leverage it for your own mental health, so that you are taking an active role in using your chocolate to support people who are doing what they're doing. And anything from driving some over to a local hospital to figuring out how to get it to the teachers of the school district that you live in. And that's
now I'm feeling stupid. Like, why didn't I think of some of this stuff? Because you're absolutely right. I'm feeling a little bit recharged right now, thinking I can just.
It's literally what I do.
That is great. So yeah.
No, so we just put the link in the chat. It's FreeSpire, FREESPIR. So for listeners, do yourself a favor. Like, I'm telling you, you didn't know what chocolate was supposed to taste like until you've had this chocolate. May I be so bold to say it will be an orgasm in your mouth.
Eric, you just earned yourself a care package.
I'm looking forward to it. No, I'm serious. It's like I don't go on and on about stuff that I don't really love. I mean, Steve, your chocolate is like, it's insanely good. It's like, I don't know how you do it. It's like, it makes those glands at the side of your, like, where your jaw, like that twinge that you get when it's like, you get something kind of sweet, sour, like, it's amazing. FreeSpire.com.
That's what we're going for, Eric. That's what we're going for.
So yeah, echoing what Brendan said, we are in a pandemic, and I love the idea of, getting some of your chocolate out to some of the first responders and healthcare workers.
I think I just really needed to hear that, because I'm here alone with that, and just hearing somebody say it's okay to feel that way.
And it could also make a good news story if you can somehow get the media aware that you're sending out these chocolates because, like, you're a small business and here's what you're like. That is definitely a special interest story that I think your local media would be very much interested in covering.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I hope that was helpful for you.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you. It was nice seeing you again too.
You bet. All right. This happens every single Q&A where we got to answer lots of questions, and there's even more that we didn't answer. Is there one more question that we can tackle here before we wrap this one up?
Well, I think we all kind of deal with this, but Ella asks, or she says that she tends to misplace objects. For instance, ADHD tax. 2 new pairs of glasses, duplicate smog test, late tax fee. Any suggestions?
First thing I've found that the reason I misplace objects is because I don't know I put them down. I will be walking from one room, and as I'm walking, I will just set whatever's in my hand down somewhere, and then I will get to that room and be like, okay, where are my keys? Why am I not holding my keys? And so that's just about being there. Is just working on being mindful of where you put things, not letting them leave your hand unless they're going into a spot they need to go to. If you just kind of practice that after a while, it gets easier to just be like, okay, I'm not just putting this down, I'm putting this away, instead of, changing your mental model of like, this doesn't, because that really helps with like getting stuff stuck on counters. Like, oh, I'm just going to put this here and I'm going to put this here. No, I need to either put it away, put it where it goes.
Tile. I don't know why I was so late to the tile game, but I finally got tile. Actually, I bought a 4-pack for my dad. He didn't need all of them. So I was like, I should just take one of them. So when he needs tech support, I actually know how to help him. And so I took that one, and within the first week, I had used it like 3 times. I was like, am I really looking for my keys that often? Like, I didn't even like realize that how often this was happening. So I have tiles on multiple sets of keys. I have one shoved in my backpack. I have one on my car. I have one on the back of the Apple remote, because it's amazing how many times that thing falls between the cracks of the couch. They're sort of expensive-ish, but like when you think about how much time you spend looking for stuff, it's just this peace of mind. And with the premium version, you can get it's like a membership. I think it's like $1 or $2 a month. If you are leaving the house without your wallet and you have a tile in your wallet, you'll get a text notification because it knows that you were like going outside of the perimeter. Like, wait a minute, you and your wallet aren't together. And it'll say you left the home without your wallet. The other thing to really look into if you keep misplacing things is house elves.
You ain't lying.
Sometimes these house elves, it's just like you don't think they're actually there, and they are. They are there.
Another thing is landing pads. Those are also useful because you can actually get you can inscribe runes on your landing pad that will prevent the house elves from crossing the barrier of the landing pad, and then everything you put in there is safe. Like I have a Celtics hat that's got some of these runes on it, and I put like my wallet and my keys and the stuff that goes in my pocket into this hat, and then it stays there, and I can always find them again because the house elves can't get past the runes. So that's useful. We also have a table that is similarly inscribed, and underneath that table is where I put like my backpack and stuff. My wife puts her backpack on top of it, and that way the things that we need when we leave the house, not that we do that anymore, are in a place where we can easily access it, and we tend to bring all the things with us when necessary.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's, and just kind of mindfulness, it's like pause, take a breath. If you put something down and you're like, I'm going to come back to that, recognize that you believe that and it's not cute, but backtrack. Like whenever when I put something down and say, I'm going to come back to that, because yes, I still do that. Most of the time I'm pretty good about stopping, reversing course, grabbing the thing. Cause when I say I'll do this later, that's just a nice way of procrastinating to do the thing I actually want to do or need to do. All right.
I really hope that there's people listening right now going, wait, does Brendan really believe in house elves? Because it sounded like he did.
Are there people that don't believe in house elves?
That's what I want to know.
I'm from Hawaii, so we're going to go with Menehune.
Absolutely. So I think this is the end of this here episode. I'm sorry we couldn't get to everybody's question, but please come back next month. So thank you everyone for being here. We do this every second Tuesday of the month, same time, same place. This is Eric Tivers. Thank you for listening, and congratulations for making it to the end. ADHD Rewired is more than just a podcast. We are a community focused on learning, growing, and connection. The website is ADHDrewired.com. You can find summaries and additional resources for each episode. You can apply to our free and secret Facebook community. You can learn more about ADHD Rewired's intensive online video-based coaching and accountability groups, and sign up for my email newsletter to get exclusive content you won't get anywhere else. It's all at ADHDrewired.com. While you're there, click the Patreon button. If you're a regular listener and you're still listening to my voice, Consider making a monthly contribution by becoming a patron through our Patreon page. If you are able to financially support my work, it would mean a lot. This show is free to listeners, but it is not free to produce. And patrons get really cool perks. You can follow me on Twitter at Eric Tivers. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/ADHD rewired. If you're a coach, therapist, or related professional, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/Eric Tivers. You can also subscribe to ADHD Rewired on YouTube. And you can subscribe to ADHD Rewired on YouTube and see select interviews and some other videos I've posted. Podcasts change lives. You can make a difference in someone's life by spreading the word about this podcast. Mention it in your online communities on Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, or wherever you hang out online. And be sure to share it with your friends and your family and your clients, as well as your coaches, therapists, and doctors. And if you're a coach, therapist, doctor, or ADHD support group leader, and you would like a pack of podcast postcards to hand out, you can request those at my website, ADHDrewired.com. And if you're a member of CHAD or any other ADHD support group, please be sure to tell them about this podcast. You can even show them how to download it on their phone. You know, you might be the person that turns somebody on to a podcast for the very first time. And if you really love this episode, please consider hitting share on your podcast player. I'm only one person, and I count on you to help me spread the message. One of the biggest things that you can do to support this podcast and to help other people discover it is to leave an honest rating and review on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, or any other podcast app that accepts ratings and reviews. And don't forget to hit subscribe on this podcast on your podcast app so new episodes are automatically pushed to your favorite podcast app. Looking for more ways to listen and learn? Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ADHD rewired. Not sure where to start? In no particular order. Check out Atomic Habits by James Clear, The Body Keeps Score by Bessel van der Kolk, 10% Happier, and Meditation for Fidgety Skeptics. These are both by Dan Harris. Change Your Questions and Change Your Life by Marilee G. Adams. The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Procrastinate on Purpose by Rory Vaden. The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Do you have trouble asking for help? Listen to The Art of Asking by Amanda Palmer. It's one of the best produced audiobooks I've ever heard. If you're looking for something a little bit more, say, magical, I unexpectedly fell in love with the Harry Potter series. And I don't usually listen to those kinds of books, and I loved it. And of course, if you haven't yet boarded the Brene Brown bus yet, check out Brene Brown's books, starting with The Gifts of Imperfection, Daring Greatly, Rising Strong, The Power of Vulnerability. And if you're an entrepreneur or leader in any capacity, check out her 2018 book, Dare to Lead. And Brene still is my most wanted guest, so if you know Brene, and you would be so kind to make that connection for me, I would be really, really grateful. You know who else I would like to have on the show? You. Click the podcast tab at ADHDrewired.com and then click the Be a Guest button at the top of that page and schedule a 15-minute pre-interview. This is Eric Tivers, reminding you to keep learning, keep growing, and keep connecting. Self-care is not selfish, and no matter what gets done or doesn't get done, at the end of the day, you are still enough. And no matter how hard it feels, we can do hard things. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next week.